I want to give you all a little background of what you're doing, the spiritual side of it. And once you know the spiritual side of it, it makes it easier to actually learn the physical part. All right? What do you know so far about this dance? By the way, I didn't know you guys were practicing. I didn't know the KH was doing all this. I just found out a few days ago by accident. So anyways, what do you know about what this is about? Can someone tell me and explain? Who are the dancers?
It's a secret and very mysterious dance.
Secret and mysterious dance.
Which is practiced to offer to Lama who have total control of the birth there. This in the ritual.
Listen up carefully. Whatever he says, I'm going to test you guys.
In the ritual, they'll invite 5 Dakini from 5 Buddha's family to come and offer the kata to the Lama, to invite the Lama to go to their place to teach the Dharma. In the ritual, the abbot or the guru will cut away the kata, which means rejected the offer from the Dakini and remain in where the Lamas belong, which prolong the life. It means the Lama decided to stay here to teach instead of going to Japanese.
Anything else? Anybody else have anything to add? Learn. Learn as much as possible. Don't just do the dance. The dance by itself is not useful. The dance doesn't create any energy. The dance doesn't create any merit. The dance doesn't create any clearance of obstacles. Simply just to dance and get your hands, gestures, and movements correct will not do anything for the Lama or anyone. So you need to know the meaning behind it. And while you're doing the dance, during the ritual, there's a motivation and there's a meditation. And when you do the motivation and meditation correctly, then the Dakinis come to life. And the Dakinis is not about male or female. It's not about you being male and you dress up as a girl and you dance. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. So what happens is, if you understand the motivation and you understand the meditation and you understand the reason and you think that while you're dancing, then it becomes a very powerful offering. It becomes a very powerful, incredible energy offered up to extend the Lama's life. It's also offered up to extend the activities of whatever you're doing. And it isn't just your Lama's life, it also extends your own life. Okay? When the Dakinis leave, the Dakinis visualize taking this negative energy out. Why? You are representing the Sangha. You are representing the students. You're representing all the Lamas, heartfelt students who have a lot of faith and that want Dharma. So they have a lot of negative karma. And the negative karma can manifest in, oh, what my Rinpoche says, I don't believe. Oh, what my Rinpoche says, I'm not going to do. Oh, what he tells me is so difficult. Ayo, I don't think that. I think I just go get a relationship and I just relax. Ayo, I cannot, this cannot, that cannot, this cannot. All that is manifested from negative karma. Where else does that come from? When one is separate or distant from the Lama, it is symbolic that you're distant from the Dharma teachings. It's a symbology. When it says close to the Lama, doesn't mean you sit with the Lama and go everywhere with him. This is not the meaning. It's impossible. The meaning is the closeness you feel from your heart to your Lama. The faith and the respect you feel towards your Lama. When you have that closeness towards your Lama, it automatically translates into closeness to the Dharma. Because it's not so much the Lama is more of the doorway. Because what happens if your Lama passes away? You stop doing Dharma practice? No, definitely not. So our wish to be close to our Lama can be physical, can be mental, it can be aspirational, all three. But it doesn't mean physically we need to be close. It means from here, very close. Alright? So when the Dakinis are ringing the bell and Vajra and walking away, let me borrow your Vajra and bell. And by the way, the bell is too small. You guys should have bigger ones because you're men, your hands are big, it's difficult to manipulate and use. It should be much bigger. Where's the Vajra? No Vajra. Oh, Doji Mendo. Actually, no, the Dakinis, they don't need to carry. Doji Go Marwa. No, they don't need. It's just doing ritual. So this should be bigger actually. I was telling Malam, should get bigger ones, mark it and put it away so we can do this puja all the time. Then we have the equipment. Alright? Now, during the ritual, if you drop it, very inauspicious. It's a very bad sign. So when you practice, you have to focus because the dancing is a part of the meditation of awareness. If you're normally not aware, then you're going to drop everything. So during the ritual in cage, if you're doing it and suddenly you drop, what do? The Dakini bends over and picks it up. Doesn't look good. Alright? So sometimes what we do is we can tie a string here from here to here. We can tie a string. But if you tie a string and it brings your awareness away, it's not good either. Okay, sometimes you can tie a string here, red string from here, and then tie from here when you practice. Because the whole time you're holding Vajra bell. When the Dakini is leaving the prayer hall, the Dakini is leaving, right? It's quick, it's direct. He dances out, the Dakini dances out, showing that no hard feelings. And then when the Dakini leaves very quick and very fast. Very fast. Why? Why do you ring the bell and Damaru when you're leaving? Because the bell represents emptiness. And the Damaru represents compassion and great bliss. So when you're ringing this, Dakinis who are highly attained and enlightened, they're very powerful. They can give you great bliss. They can give you attainments. They can give you a lot of power. So when you ring this, it is by the power of great bliss, by the power of emptiness, I leave this place. And by the power of emptiness and great bliss, I take all the obstacles away from here, that you may continue your Dharma practice and Dharma work, and I leave. And the Dakinis fly back to their lands. Does everybody understand? So ringing the bell has a lot of meaning. You shouldn't just simply ring. You should simply just play. This one play must be not, you know. Okay? Some of you, when you're leaving, gotta play both. And the secret to Dhammaru practice is like this. Let me show you, okay? When you move the Dhammaru, when you first start, you hit it harder. When you stop, you hit it hard again. So watch. When you start, when you stop. All right, but in between, it's even. It's very clear and very precise and very pronounced. Okay? And when you hit the Dhammaru, your whole wrist doesn't move, just in the beginning and end. All right, beginning, end. Because there's no other way you can hit it hard if you don't move your wrist, unless, I don't know, you got extra fingers. So, but in between, your wrist cannot move. Okay, in between is like this. Just the thumb and the finger. Nothing else moves. So, no. When you're playing your Dhammaru, this should never move. If this moves, you're doing it wrong. Okay, watch. I'll go up and down everywhere, and you will not see this move. All right? And the reason is because you think, why so intricate? There's meaning behind it. There's meaning. All right? However, nothing moves. Stop. So you need to practice quietly, not at home. Wake up your wife, wake up your partner, wake up your friend, and not at a place where the neighbors call the police because there's a bomb next door. You play maybe here and you practice one thing at a time. All right? You come here, you're very interested. Come. And bring your Dhammaru, bring your bell. I don't need this now, they can hear me. Thanks, it's quite interruptive. You sit right here. Sit right here. Sit comfortable. Sit comfortable. Sit comfortable. Now you do as I should. This one, relax. You show me what I teach you just now. And you know what? Forget about this. Haven't you seen Birdcage? Okay, forget about that. All right, now. No, not like that. Just relax. Just relax. Just straight. Do your hands straight for now. Once you learn this, you can do what you want. You can dance. You can hang up upside down. Yeah, you can hang on a tree like a monkey. You can do what you want. All this one from here up, forget it. Just concentrate here. This one, never move. Only this one and this one. Okay. Now watch here. Watch. How are you holding the Dhammaru? The Dhammaru is held by your thumb. Your finger long is good, and your forefinger. And how do you brace it? Against here. And the control is these two. You're using this finger to hold it. And this finger, hold this one. Yes. And yeah, you can do that. In fact, this should be thicker. His is not very good. This should be thicker. We have to make it very beautiful and look all the same. This one make him suffer a lot. Yeah. Yeah, you use this one, easier for you. I'm expert, this one okay. See, this one not easy for him at all. This one, and in fact, because of this, he can't hold it. Even I can't. All right, so he's got to wrap it, which is wrong. But for now, we just do that. Okay. Now, is it easier? Yeah. Where are you holding this one?
So it should be this side.
No, you don't need already.
Okay.
You don't need already because you have that one. Which finger is holding this one? Yeah, this one and a little bit this one. Which finger is holding this Dhammaru up?
This one.
Correct. And which one is manipulating it?
These two fingers.
Correct. When do you use the wrist? When you first start,
Yeah.
and when you first start, and then
And then end.
correct. And relax. Don't be so tight. It won't fall out. You because you're very stiff. You're very scared. If you hold like that, your hand become numb. You will drop it. Just relax. I know you think how to hold it if I relax. Can see. Watch. This one no good. No problems. This one very bad. You don't this for him, for all of you, this one is very cannot. This one excellent. Got a grip. All right? The metal part is good, but you need this still. So this one not his fault. Okay? And then make sure your string is in the front. If it's in the back, you hit it, nothing wrong. Always make sure the string is in the front, all right? Start like this. Good. Both sides, relax. Just relax. Just relax. Ah, just relax. Good. Relax. You're doing very good. This takes some time. Correct. Good. Relax. Just use your thumb now. Use your thumb and finger to move it. Don't relax and just use. Look, 4 fingers. Okay, now when you do it again, you're going like that.
Okay.
No need, just straight.
Straight. Yeah.
Straight. Yeah, straight. I want you to relax and don't worry. You can't do it wrong. What I mean is there's no negative repercussions. Good. Good. Now relax your arm. Just relax. Okay? Then you move it like this. Don't hit it. Just move. That's it. Yes. See, you're going like this. No need. That's it. There's a tempo. Correct. Watch. Don't do it yet. Just watch. Very clear and crisp. Now you do again. Just the finger and the 2 fingers, huh? Look, everybody watching? Ah, that's it. Just like that. Okay? Can you make it a little up more? So there's some space. Oops, sorry. There's some space here. Then you have more. Because sometimes when you're too close, your finger blocks, so you have to do like that. Grip this strong. Mm-hmm. This one hold down. Now, can you move it like that? See, there's some space, right? You can go like that easier. Ah, a little bit easier because you're holding very close, which is good. See, now slow. Yes, slow. Now hold it strong so that this cannot fall off, all right? But not so close so you have space to move. Because if you hold it close, look here. How? Right. Cannot move, right? A little bit. But how will you hold it from falling off? Yeah. So this is pushing this way, this is pulling this way. So there's a tension, but it's very light. You get it? This is push this one, push this way. This one, pull this way. So you have full control. Very good, Joe. Now there's some space, right? You have better manipulation now. Now watch. Just practice. Yes. Okay, move your thumb a little bit more. Yes, the thumb is doing the work. This is bracing it. Yes. Yes, the thumb is doing the work. Okay? Now watch. What's doing the work? It's my thumb. This finger not doing too much. It's just steady. The thumb is doing the work. Very easy already. Now you try. You just relax and you try. This takes a few days. It's not easy. It took me a few days. Go ahead. Do it again. If you fail, do it again. Never mind. Everybody knows you're not Rinpoche. Just do it. No problem. No need to have big ego. Just do it. He's like, oh, now don't move. Hope nobody see. He's like this. Look. I hope nobody see that. You can do it. You see, you're so hard. Relax. You don't need your whole body move her. It's so small. Relax. Good. Now watch. Move your thumb and finger. Go ahead. If you have to do a few times, do it to get the car started. Never mind. I mean, sometimes like, what? The car don't start? How? I do it again. Start that car. Ah. Good. Very good. Good. You're getting the principle. Do not expect Joe or any of you to learn this tonight. It will take you a few days of practice. I didn't learn this overnight. I was in LA and I had to practice a few weeks. But I learned very quick because I like rituals. So don't think that, oh, tonight Rinpoche show us, I cannot do, I'm dumb, maybe cannot. No. You've never done this before. You've never seen these kind of things before. Of course, it takes some time. So Sing Piao has videoed, all right? Sing Piao, come here closer. Then I'll put this on my blog tonight. You guys can watch it again, all right? Come a little closer and film my hand. Maybe you sit here easier than you don't shake. What we do is, we hold the Dhammaru with our 3 remaining fingers. What holds the Dhammaru down, the most pressure is basically this finger and this finger. This finger, not so much, this one's holding it down. Then the Dhammaru's holder should be thicker and wider, so you have something to grab. If it is just a string, there's nothing to hold on to. Some people put coral and turquoise and amber round beads. Have you seen it? Beads also can hold. The important thing is you need to have a grip. And the grip should be big enough for your whole hand, in case your hand is big. Alright? Then, you have the string going down and you have the dapen. What is the dapen and why do people put beads here and why do they put silver here? Where's that silver Dhammaru just now? The one he was using. Thanks. Okay, good. This one nice. This one whose? Who? Ooh. This one the best one. Okay. Why do Buddhists who are supposed to be unattached have all these precious, this is not real, it's fake, but it's okay, jewels and silver and adornments and this? Why? Because it is an instrument. It is not a possession, it is an instrument. And when we're playing this instrument for certain rituals, you're offering the sound up to the Buddhas. So the object that the sound comes from should be as beautiful and ornate as possible. Example, when we go for a symphony, harmony, a symphonic orchestra, when they go, their instruments are very shiny, it's very clean, and they dress up, they wear suits, the lady wear gowns, and they put their hair nicely. Why? It's to please the audience so they look good. I mean, you walk in, you walk in, you didn't wash, you didn't brush your teeth, you didn't look clean, you look like Ethan. I'm just kidding. The audience go, oh, like that. My point, the whole point of decorating this is not for yourself. The whole point of decorating this is not like put a lot of money into this. The whole point of decorating this is that it is an instrument used to offer beautiful sound to the Buddhas. So when you offer beautiful sound, even the object in which the sound comes from is beautiful. Does everybody understand? And then usually these have 5 colors. The 5 colors represent our 5 aggregates. Okay, feeling, touch, mind, smell, taste, hearing, the 5 aggregates. Through those 5 aggregates, we perceive everything. Through the 5 aggregates, we understand everything. If we understand it wrong, the 5 aggregates create more negative karma. If we understand it correctly, the 5 aggregates become something that creates positive karma. So when we offer the 5 colors up to the Buddha, right? Blue, white, red, green, and yellow, it represents the 5 aggregates. We offer it up to the Buddha mean what? It means we offer our negative aggregate up, purify, so whatever comes from my speech, my mind, my thoughts, my feeling is positive. That's why we offer the 5 colors. And then we offer ornaments. We can offer pearls. We can offer wish-fulfilling jewels here. We can offer banners. We can offer tassels. Why? Because we're decorating the offering up to the Buddha. Everything offered up to the Buddha should be very beautiful. Does everybody understand this? Okay? And inside each Dhammaru, original, authentic one should contain, don't rip it open to see God or not. Inside each should be written the Sanskrit letter A. because all forms arise from the primordial sound of ah. So when you put an ah there and you play the Damaru, you permeate everybody with the blessing of the syllable ah. And ah represents Buddha's speech. So Damaru is sound. Sound is speech. So when you put ah there, you visualize, by this sound, may everybody be blessed by Buddha's speech. How do you get blessed by Buddha's speech? May everybody receive Dharma. Then you play. So you also use your Damaru to bless everybody around you. With what? The potential to receive Buddha's teachings, because you're blessing them by speech. Does everybody understand that? What color your Damaru is doesn't matter. Traditionally, a Damaru is made of skull. Okay, you don't go and kill Joe and make his Damaru skull and say, oh, you collect merit lah. What they usually do is, in ancient Indian and Tibetan times, Nepali, they don't bury the dead. They take it to the cremation ground, they do prayers, they mash it, and they mix flour with it, and with prayers they offer to the birds to collect last merit for people. So there's a lot of skulls and everything left. And even one more act of merit, they take their skulls, they clean it, they purify it, they ask the lamas to bless the skull, so the person collect merit, and they use the skull to place the instrument. So the instrument, how long it exists to make offerings, it collects merit for the person who has died. Okay, so let's say this person died, very old, and they said, oh, please do prayers for my next life. So we take their body to the cemetery, and with prayers, we wash it, we clean it, with a lot of respect, they chop it up, and with a lot of care and mantras, they mash it together with tsampa, with Tibetan flour, F-L-O-U-R, and then they roll it in balls, and with prayers, they throw it to the birds. And when the birds eat, they make prayer, the monks. May the person whose body is being eaten gain a good life by offering this to the birds. And then they have the bones left, and they wash the bones, and they clean it, and they purify it with a lot of respect. And then they cut, and they take the skull, and they make Damarus from it. Take from Damarus, they purify it, they paint it with saffron and colors, and then they seal it, and they put a skin over it, and then they play it, and they offer it to people who are doing practice. Sincere tantric practice. And every time they use it, the person who's died, they will gain the merit. This is the theory. And they also use this bone. This is called a thigh bone trumpet. Sometimes they'll take this part of the bone with respect, clean and wash, purify it, and then they'll put a top and a bottom. They'll use that during tantric ritual also. So last time when people came to Tibet, they said, oh my God, they kill children, they take their skulls, they take their femur bones, and they make instruments. Actually, it's true, but not that way. Not that way. And some lamas also have an inner offering cup. The inner offering cup they use to bless spirits or bless offerings they use, that one is made from a human skull also. That's how it's made. It's not ordinarily the way people think, but that's with respect and that's with permission. They don't simply go there and say, oh, you're going to die, I take your skull. Shh. No. It's with a lot of respect, okay? So the Damaru represents great compassion and bliss. There's a lot of meaning. It can be emptiness and great bliss, but I make it easy for you. Great compassion and wisdom. With great compassion and wisdom, we can become a Buddha. Or great bliss and great emptiness. Only a Buddha has these qualities. Great bliss means a person who never ever have to suffer any negative karma again. They are always in bliss. Who has that? Only a Buddha. A person who has perceived emptiness. Only a Buddha. So by offering great bliss and emptiness, to the Buddhas, you create the merit to achieve it yourself. Does everybody understand that? Okay, come a little closer. So with this one, not you, the camera. Jeffrey wants to come sit here. He wants to be teacher's pet. Okay, now we hold this one with 3 fingers, okay? And the last 2 finger is the one that really holds it. And this thumb and this index finger and the thumb finger is pushing it, okay? And this is pulling it, so you have a natural tension. But you see, none of my fingers touch. This one never touches this. Okay, can you see, Joe? This one and this one never touch. Okay, but this is holding it and this is holding it. I'm like a Chinese acrobat. See, I can do all kinds of things with my damaru. Then this one's holding. Then when you move it the first time, you shake it with your whole arm. I'm sorry, your whole wrist, not your whole arm, your whole wrist. Look at it here, everybody. Is my fingers touching the damaru, the folded fingers? No, right? That's the way. Your folded fingers never touch the damaru. Your folded fingers doesn't really touch the damaru. I mean, if it touches, no bad karma lah. If it doesn't touch, it just means you have more control. Okay? And it's easier. Watch. What moves the damaru is not really this one, it's only this. I'm telling you this because it makes it easier for you. This one stabilizes it. This one moves it. Everybody understand? Okay. So I'll put this on film, I'll blog it. You guys can look at it again and again to practice wherever you are. You understand? You try one more time. Relax. Relax. When you shake it, make sure you move everything, not just one side. Relax. You're allowed to shake your whole hand. Don't think, oh, I cannot move my wrist, cannot move lah. So you just move. You move, never mind lah. Yeah, do one more time. Keep doing. Practice. Good. See, you got the car started. Yeah, you do one more time. Because this guy's like, I can only turn this way. Just get that car started. Come on. Yes, good. Okay, your car stalled again. Do it again. Yeah, okay, good. That's it. Now you just practice like that, and once you start, how do you stop? Show me.
The same thing.
I want to show me how to stop that car. You relax, relax, relax. It's very good. He's getting the technique done. Good. Stop that car. Look. Your car stopped like... Okay. You do like that, look. Then, that's it. Just twist it, like, stop that car. Yeah, that's good. Good. Stop that car. Good. So when you start harder, when you stop harder, just practice. What I want you to do, because what he's doing is, he's afraid to move his arm because I scared you. You can move in the beginning. You can move when you stop. How to stop and start hard if you don't move your arm. Even I cannot. So he's paranoid, like, oh, Rimji's watching. If I move my arm, I get a slap. Can't move your arm. Worst comes to worst, the worst kind of dharma playing is like this. I've seen people. This one cannot. This one in the monastery is unacceptable because they say, oh, you didn't practice. Okay? But it's no bad karma. Then your bell, oh, you're like that one, huh? What is this, a secret Nazi sign? Very gentle. When you play the bell, normally, you start hard and you hard finish, same like Damaru. And the bell start first, but the Damaru end first. The bell start first, the Damaru end first. Let me explain. The bell start first, the Damaru then starts. Then when you want to end it, the Damaru end first, and the bell end last. And he's like, oh no. Not only got car, got motorbike to start. When I said that, Joe's like, okay, don't move that, move with this, like that, then this one, and then this start first, that second, which one now? It will be on the blog, don't worry. You go home and cheat. You say, hey, I remember when Rich told me what I remember. Watch. And the bell is never held like this, never. Never held like that. And you don't hold the bell like this. Unless you're a Yamataka practitioner, you know? Which none of us are. You never hold. Why? This one show a lot of pride, like I'm so high. Not you know? No. The bell hold like this. Very gentle. This one just stick out a little bit, you know? Just a little bit, very gentle. This is for Gilup away. Gilup ang tene chair yung tene chair. Nimjung chair with it. Nimjung, gentle. So we hold like this when we grab the bell, huh? This is how you grab the bell. Maybe we can film closer. Okay? This is how you hold the bell, a small bell. So you will manipulate it with this finger, index. You will hold it with your thumb. And the two other fingers will help you to keep it up. And your last finger will stop it. Watch. When you start the bell, you can use the whole wrist. When you start the bell, this bell is too small. Can I use yours? Oh, this one much better, yes. When you start the bell, everybody, when you start the bell, hard. Then when you're ringing it, gently moving it, gently. Not like this, no. Like this, very gentle. And then you stop. So when you start, hard. When you stop, hard. And when you're moving the bell, you don't move your wrist. Watch. And when you ring the bell, it's not here, it's not here, heart level. Ning kabla, at your heart. Again, a traditional bell will have mantras written inside. So when the bell rings, it blesses everybody. Okay? And the bell is held at the heart when you're doing rituals. You start with the bell, and then the damaru. Then you end with the damaru, and then the bell stops. That's a normal procedure. Does everybody understand? Okay? Watch. This one's, let me see. Wow, this is way too small for you because your hand big. But you can practice. And as graceful as possible. Try to make it that your bell is not like really moving like the Liberty Bell in Pennsylvania. You know, Philadelphia. It's moving gently. Yeah, it's you can hear it. Watch. See how elegant? Not much movement. Then you can do your meditations. You invite the Dakinis to come. Then once they arrive, you announce their arrival. Very crisp and very clear. Okay? So like this, the bell always starts first. For your Dakini dance, it's simultaneous now. Okay, but normally I'm telling you the procedure. And when you play the Damaru, normally, it's not here or here, it's exactly L-shaped, 90 degrees. So it's like that. Unless you have something obstructing you in front. If you have something obstructing you, go a little higher, lah. But normally, at the heart, straight. And then when you're not using it, Gelupas, or the way we've been taught in Ganden, is you don't hold it up. No. Hold it here very gently and very quietly to show that you're not a great practitioner. You're only using the bell according to ritual, you don't know much. Show humility. So we always, Geshe-la always tells us, keep it here, quiet. Then during the puja, if you're not using it for a long time, put it back gently. Okay, now. Dakinis are usually female. And they have many different types of looks and appearances. I will talk about the Dakinis from the Hiruka and Vajrayogini Tantra. Some of the Dakinis have animal faces. Kidongma, dog face. Padongma, pig face. Udongma, owl face. Domdongma, bear face, etc., etc. Some of the Dakinis, this side is green, this side is red. Some of the Dakinis, this side is white, this side is green. Some of the Dakinis, one color. Some of the Dakinis have 4 arms. Some of the Dakinis have 2 arms. Some of the Dakinis, the face are very fierce, like Kenda Rohi. Very fierce, very powerful. Highly attained Dakinis, very highly attained Dakinis, they are actually Buddhas. So what happens is, Dakinis exist in millions and millions and millions. When a tantric practitioner calls Dakinis to come, they're messengers. They're like angels. When they call the Dakinis to come to pass a message, sometimes to give an initiation, sometimes to give a Dharma talk, sometimes to give you a warning, sometimes to give you a good sign. They can come in dreams, they can come in visions, they can come during the time where you're half asleep, half awake. Depend on your level of your mind. If your mind is very highly attained, you can see them directly. Example, last time when Kyabje Sornramji escaped from Tibet, there were some songs according to some rituals that were lost because they have a text with the songs. It was lost. So the monks in the monastery don't know how to sing this particular song during the ritual. Nobody can go back to Tibet and do it. So Sornramji did prayers, he went to sleep. When he woke up, he wrote the song perfectly. And when he wrote the song, he trained the monks, the older monks who didn't have the writing, but they understand the tune. They go, oh my God, that's it. They said, how did you get it, Sornramji? Oh, the Dakinis came and sang it to me while I was asleep. And Dakinis hold a lot of tantric secrets. The reason we invite Dakinis to come, they're very beautiful. They're very youthful. They're very voluptuous. And they have long, beautiful hair. And they're very seductive. And they move in such a way that upon seeing them, you get blessings. When you invite a Dakini to come, when the Dakinis come, in our body, we have main points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have 6 main nerve centers. From these nerve centers, more smaller nerve centers go out. And these nerve centers go out throughout your body. And then they reconnect with each other. So this nerve center, this one, all go out and they reconnect here and they come back to here. So from here, they go to here. From here, they go to here. They go to here. They go all over. So we have 72,000 psychic channels, but they converge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They converge at these places. So when one of these nerve centers gets stuck, the nerve centers are hollow. They're blue on the outside and they're red on the inside and they're hollow. When they get stuck, you can become depressed, you can become angry, you can become sick, or you can become crazy. So in tantric practice, there's practices where you can move the energy throughout your body. But it's not to get good health, but you will get good health. It is gain control. Why? From these energy channels, here's an energy channel, it's hollow. Inside it's got the wind, right? The wind. On the wind rides your subtle mind. So wherever you move your energy, your consciousness moves with it. So if you can move your consciousness, okay, today I move my consciousness here, and then I move it back up. I move it here, and I move it back up. So at the time of death, all the winds in your body throughout will converge to these points. Then these converge to right here. It will stop here. Then just before you completely die, the last wind will ascend here. And when it leaves to this point, your body will have all the signs of death. You'll start decomposing, you'll start smelling, you'll start rotting. High practitioners like I blogged, did you see my blog? High practitioners like the one in New Zealand, even though they're dead for 20 days, they still are fresh. Why? Because their consciousness is here. But their wings have dissolved, but it's still here. Do you understand? Now, in tantric practice, when you do Vajrayogini very well, you can control the wind. When you can control the wind, your mind rides on the wind. You can leave your body anytime you want. You control your birth. So then you raise the wind. And the central channel is here. The central channel starts here, and it goes here, and it goes around, and it goes down. Okay? So you bring the wind up. You can inject. And then once you leave here, you will see your body fall. And then you go where you want. You can travel to other galaxies. You can travel to other places where they have beings that are alive in an instant. You can see your next mother and father. You can see your mother. And this mind can enter your mother directly. And you take rebirth. You gain that kind of control. It's very powerful. If we spend our life to gain this kind of power, you have no fear at death, at rebirth, and your next life. If you spend your whole life to make money, to save, to get cars, to get fun, to get food, the benefit is for this life only. But when you die, you're back to square one. Okay, now, so what happens is during tantric practice, this is what we wish to achieve, the smaller part. You don't have to worry about your future life ever again. Ever again. Now, the Dakinis come. When the Dakinis come, we pray to them. Please clear my drops and my channels and my winds so that I can do my practice. So when the Dakinis come, they bless you. All your channels become clear. So whatever meditation you do, very quick, very fast. The Dakinis can help you in that way. So when the Dakinis come, there's a lower Dakinis. The higher Dakinis never harm. They never damage. These higher Dakinis stay in 24 power places in our world. They stay in 24 power places. When you call them by mantra and ritual, they come immediately. When they come, they bless you, they bless the people and the environment. A sign of a blessing of a Dakini is your mind will be geared more towards Dharma practice. Your mind will have faith in your Guru. Your mind will have faith in positive, wonderful practices and thoughts. So when you think positively, you do positive things, you're very happy. That's a sign of a blessing of a Dakini. Alright, so this dance, what's happening is when high lamas, there are two types of Tenshu. Tenshu means long life. Two types. One for lamas with control, one for lamas without. The lamas who don't have control, they're just as powerful because they give you the Dharma. The lamas without control, you don't do a Khandro Tenshu. Khandro is offered to lamas who have control. Why? Lamas who have control over their winds, they can die any time. Always the Dakinis come. You may not see it, you may not hear it. The Dakinis always come and they make offerings and they make song. And they do dance. And they play musical instruments. And they say, please Lama, come to our place and give us teachings. Please come to this place and give us teachings. Please come to this place and give us teachings. So if the Dakini asks all the time, the Lama is very compassionate. When you request the Lama has to follow your request. So if the students here don't do their job, they break their samaya, they disappoint the Lama, they always make the Lama feel unwanted, or they make unwanted in what way? They don't do the practice. They always disappoint the Lama. The Lama might think, maybe I go. Maybe I will go. So when the students disappoint the Lama all the time, on a psychological level, it's very disappointing. But on a karmic level, you create obstacles for the Lama to go. Why would a Lama ever stay? A real Lama. A real Lama stays to give you the Dharma. So if you're not getting the Dharma and you're not receiving the Dharma, the Lama will go somewhere else where he can give the Dharma. Here, just plant some seeds. So if you always disappoint and make the Lama sad, you create the karma for the Lama to go. What actually makes the Lama go is not his sadness, it's the karma you end it. Because you don't listen, you don't cooperate, you don't carry out your fulfillments, you don't carry out your samaya. It's always no, 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 no. For samsara, everything is yes. For Lama, no. So when like that, you collect the negative karma for the Lama to pass away. So when you do a Tenshu, you're offering the Lama the signs of royalty, the 8 auspicious signs, the 7 royal emblems, the accoutrements of a monk, the begging bowl, the staff. You're offering Lama song and praise. And then finally, in the middle of the ritual, the abbot or the head ritualist invite the Dakinis to come. And when the Dakinis come, they make a lot of sound. They make a lot of noise. They come with pageantry. They come not 5 fat Dakinis like you guys. This one fat body, this one fat head. The 5 Dakinis is not just 5 Dakinis, okay? The Dakinis have entourage, and they have entourage, handmaidens. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Dakinis come, and they fill the prayer hall. They really come if you have the third eye. So in the prayer hall, with the Lama sitting on the throne, you will see the ladies coming. Beautiful blue black hair. Beautiful round breasts are erect. Slender hips. Slender waists. Long legs. Dancing with sashaying, with beautiful, beautiful ornaments. The ornaments that represents the 6 paramitas. And they're smiling, they're seductive. And they come in different colors. They play musical instruments. They carry offerings. And they sing songs of emptiness and Mahamudra. And when they come, Ah la 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 ho. Ai ara li ho. They offer song, sound, sight, taste, feeling, thought to your Lama, and they generate the merit for your Lama to come. So during the Tenshu, you guys invite the Dakinis to come. Actually, you don't want them to come, but you invite them to come. And when they come singing, offering. They come with ornaments. They're beautiful. I mean, why would the Lama want to hang around with you clowns? Look. Take a look at it. Look at this Dakini. I said, God, what ugly Dakini, man. But no, I'm just kidding. The beauty is here, actually. So Dakinis come with their beautiful bodies. I mean, it's like, like thousands of supermodels. Thousands of supermodels coming forward, dancing, beautiful hair, beautiful ornaments, carrying auspicious signs, carrying banners, playing music, singing Dharma songs. And they entertain the Lama, and they collect merit, and they tell the Lama, come with us. And then the Lama look at you and say, yeah, I think I will. And when the Lama starts to agree to come, then the Lama will show sickness. The Lama will show the body degenerating. The Lama will show illness. And then the illness will be slow, then the Lama dies. Most Lamas like that. Now, so when the Dakinis come, 5 main Dakinis representing the 5 aggregates or the 5 Buddha families. Amoghasiddhi, Amitabha, Ratnasambhava, Vairochana, and Amitabha. The 5 Buddha families, the 5 types of Dakinis come that represent the 5 Buddha families. They represent all Buddha families. And they come with their entourage. Thousands of them filled the flying, moving, dancing. So then the abbot does an offering to the Dakinis and talks to the Dakinis and say, great Dakinis who have achieved Mahamudra, great Dakinis who are messengers, great Dakinis who have come to request this holy Lama to leave, please, we request you to respect, take these offerings, take our prayers, please go back. So then the Dakinis have, the white Dakini have a white kata, the red Dakini have a red kata. Those katas represent lights. So from the blue Dakini, let's say it's blue, you have a kata here going from the heart to the Lama, and the Dakini is inviting the Lama. So the Doji Lopen, or the abbot, or the person in charge, takes a scissor that's blessed, and with prayer, with ritual, with respect, he cuts the kata. When he cuts the kata, it sends Dakini back, because he has power also. So when Dakini goes back, Dakini goes back very quickly, as soon as possible. When the Dakinis go back, it represents your Lama staying. Dakini don't go back, peek through the door. Hey, Lama, don't forget, I'll come. No, get lost. You gotta get lost. That's the meaning behind it. Then the rest of the puja is praising the Lama, praising the Lama's qualities, praising the Dharma, and why the Lama should continue and teach the Dharma. Tenshuks are offered by a sponsor. Usually, let's say, Joe is going to sponsor the Tenshu. He will sponsor the Dakinis, he'll give an ang pao, he'll sponsor the bread and the milk and the tea and the lunch for the assembly. He will also sponsor carpets, new robes. He'll sponsor new throne items. Everything new. It's like the Lama is born again. The sponsor do that. If one sponsor cannot handle it, a combined group of sponsors. So during Tenshu, you actually offer the Lama new clothes, new ritual items, new throne covers, new shoes. Everything new you offer the Lama. You offer the Lama body, speech, and mind. Many statues, many Dharma texts, many stupas. You offer the Lama the Kangyur, the Tengyur, whatever you like from your heart. Why? You're generating the merit for the Lama to stay. You're competing with the Dakinis. So when you all do this ritual, I don't want you to think, oh, these are women and I'm man and I cannot move like that. No. Dakinis are in female form, but actually they have the male and female energy already equal in them. They can change into a man. They can change into a woman. It has nothing to do with male or female energy. It has to do with enlightened energy. So when you guys do the Dakini dance, this is what you need to think. Every day you come to practice is wonderful. You should think, I'm going to do this to make merits for my Lama to live long. And I want my Lama to live long. And if my Lama lives long, I want to receive Dharma. And by the merits, may I understand the Dharma and may I bring benefit to others. For this reason, I will come and learn to do the dance. That kind of motivation. Then your practice is not some dance in an intricate Tibetan ritual. It's a Dharma practice. It is a Dharma practice. So the way you move, doesn't matter what your body's shape is, the way you move, the way you act is a meditation to generate merit for the Dharma. Why are you moving in this way? Why are you ringing? Why are you doing this? It's to imitate the movements of the Dakinis. It is to imitate the movement of the Dakinis. Okay? So you're saying, but we can never dance like that. That's not the point. It's your sincerity. It's your sincerity. So after you finish your practice, you should do a little dedication. I practice today to make offering to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha in my Guru. I do a dedication. Then before you actually do the rituals, the Lama's not supposed to see you. I'm not supposed to be here, but anyway, I thought I'll give you some knowledge. Before you actually do the ritual, before you put on the clothes, you shouldn't think, oh, this is a costume. Wow, so exotic. Hey, Albert, yours don't fit. We got to make a bigger laugh. You don't think like that. You have to think, oh, this is the celestial clothes of the Dakinis. Because we wouldn't want to, Dakinis are actually sometimes naked, but I don't think you guys should go naked. The Lama will definitely go. Could you see Chia and Albert coming in naked? Hi, I'm a Dakini. We'll be like, no, this is not Halloween. No, I'm just kidding. Albert's fine. Chia's fine. So when you guys come in, you're wearing the clothes of a Dakini. Actually, the clothes are all blessed by the Lama. So when you put it on, you should think, I am the Dakini, white one that represents Vairocana, and I will generate merit for my Lama to live. So when you come in, don't be stiff. Be soft. Be gentle. Be flowing. Move your body in such a flowing, gentle, nice way, because it's all an offering. Okay? And Dakinis are real. Dakinis do exist. And some of the highly attained ones are very, very powerful. They can really bless our minds. Some Dakinis are like Tara. Tara is a Dakini. Kenda Rohi is Dakini. Vajravarahi is Dakini. Vajrayogini is Dakini. We call her Vajra Dakini. Alright? So a Tenshuk, the whole ritual from beginning to end is designed to collect merit, to make our Lama live. And many times after Tenshuks, you see the Lama getting better. Mysteriously. You think, this Lama is sneaky, huh? Maybe he's faking it. Okay? It's like that. Now, so you guys are participating in something very ancient, very powerful, and very blessed. And you should think, how lucky I am. In Kichara House, my spiritual home, Kichara is my church. In my Buddhist church, I can learn Dharma, I can participate in rituals, I can have fun, I can do all types of things, and today I get to learn something very holy and very special and very powerful. How lucky I am. You should think like that. Okay? Any questions on what I explained? Any questions? Don't be shy. Yes?
Please explain why it is men who do the dance?
Because in the monastery it's all men.
But in like Kichara House, and then the women as well?
No. Women definitely can do it. It's just that we have a monk, and the monk is training the man. It's a little more decent. Okay. But once the monk trains you up, the next set of Dakinis can be ladies. I mean, why do we have to have Dharma drags? I mean, I know these guys love to be in drag. Whenever there's a drag show, this guy, and this guy show up immediately. Chia is the queen of all of them. Why is it every time we have a drag show, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 show up? Why? Even Dharma drag. We're doing Dharma drag now. You guys are guys posing as Dakinis. Dakini's my foot. Okay? But Paris is right. We can have ladies. In the nunneries, they have ladies. Alright? So we can have lady Dakinis. Because Dakinis are ladies. But you don't want all these ladies coming into the monastery and dressing up in front of thousands of monks. It's not respectful to each other. But that's a good question. Okay? Any more questions? You're very feminist all the time.
Also, dakas are the same, exactly the same.
Dakas are the male Dakinis. They're men. They're Dakas and Dakinis. Exactly the same. But yeah, go ahead.
We invite dakinis to dakas.
Oh, they come. They hang out in the back because they're not the main feature of the show. They're around. Glorious Yoga, Body Disciplines. Yeah, they're always around. Always. That's a good question. In these 24 power places, it's male and female together. Daka and Dakini. Okay? Questions? Good. I thought I'd come here to give you a little explanation of what you guys are doing. So you'll get more value, you get more worth, and to know that what you're practicing is Dharma practice, but it's in form of dance. I wanted to let you know why we do it, where it came from, and the meaning behind it. Because all of you are here every night, and you're sincere, and you want to learn. So instead of just the movement, I thought I'd give you some knowledge, some understanding. Then it has more meaning. Then when you do it, it's a meditation. So when you're in the hall with hundreds of people, it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what they think. You make sure you're there for your Lama. You make sure you're there for the... When you're there for your Lama, actually means you're there to spread the Dharma. That's the real reason. It's not even the Lama anymore. It's actually for the Dharma to spread. Everybody understand? Everybody learn something? Good. Now, remember, I'll blog it tonight so you guys can see how we play it, and I give an explanation. Then you guys listen to it and try. It's not easy at first, but it's not difficult. It's just a matter of getting used. After that, it's natural already. Okay, what plays first, the bell or the Dhammaru?
Bell.
Good. What finishes first? Very good. There you go. But in the Khandro dance, do you have to worry about that?
No.
Good. You don't have to worry about it. Okay? And show deep respect to Genla. Genla has been studying for 15 years plus, and he's going for 6 years of examinations. The last year he'll be examined in front of the Dalai Lama himself. And when he finishes, he's finished 4 years, he's got 2 years left. After he finishes, he'll get a PhD or Geshe degree in the monastery, Haram, the highest. He's very knowledgeable because he's been studying Dharma and practice and rituals and mandalas since he was a child in Tibet. He's very gentle, he's very kind, and all he does is practice and meditation, and all he does is learning. And he has a lot of students in the monastery. He teaches Dharma to many, many students. He belongs to the same Kamsen as I do, and he's from Song Rinpoche's temple in Tibet. So he's from Nangsang temple. Nangsang is the same temple as Song Rinpoche. If you look at him, you don't know anything. But you guys should feel very lucky because he is real Sangha. He's a real monk, and he holds his vows purely. Okay? And he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, no ladies, he doesn't lie, he doesn't steal, he doesn't kill his whole life. And he spends all day learning. Afternoon he gives teachings. All afternoon he gives teachings to hundreds of monks. And in the evenings and early morning he studies to finish his Geshe degree. And let me add something extra. You know my root guru Kyabje Song Rinpoche? Kyabje Song Rinpoche Gono Katsure Song Rinpoche? Kyabje Song Rinpoche Gono Katsure. His Holiness Kyabje Song Rinpoche currently is 27 years old. He is a debate partner of Song Rinpoche, which means he goes to Song Rinpoche's house every single day to debate and do study with Song Rinpoche. He's on direct phone call to Song Rinpoche. So he's highly esteemed. So what I want you to do is I want you guys to show him respect. Make sure he's all right. Sometimes bring him some food. Sometimes bring him some offerings. And after all of you are finished, I want to make a request. All of you put an ang pao, get a kata, make an offering together and say thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will tell you the truth. His bank account is zero. I asked him. He has no money. He's not even worried. He doesn't even care. Nothing at all. This is the kind of monk we have. He's from Ganden Shatse, the monastery I belong to. Same comes in. He belongs to the same temple as Song Rinpoche. So you have a very great scholar. You have a great ritual master. And he also plays ritual instruments. When the Dalai Lama comes to Ganden, two monks are chosen. He's the monk that plays the ritual clarinet for the Dalai Lama himself. So ritual instruments, galing, the symbols which we will all learn, everything he knows how to do. So you're not in the presence of he's simple, he's normal, he's humble, but he's very knowledgeable. Very, very knowledgeable. When I give initiations and stuff, I need people like that to help me. So I want you all to think how fortunate I am. What did I do? What did I do to collect karma, to be around such a great Sangha, in a good center, to learn Dharma? I thank the Sangha. I take refuge in the Sangha. I'm so fortunate. So show him respect. You don't need to prostrate or anything lah. Show him respect. Make sure that he always has a seat and make sure he's comfortable. Give him drinks because he's real Sangha. A real Sangha is like that. Someone that when you know him more and more, your faith grows, your happiness grows, your knowledge grows. Look how much, do you know he's been teaching puja all day. Then he runs here to teach you guys how to dance. And the way some of you dance, I think he's going to run back soon. Just kidding. He's very patient. He never gets angry. So remember, he's the debate partner of Saramchi, which means they study together. He's got 2 years left. He will become a PhD in all Buddhist studies. All. Aharam. On top of that, he's been studying Dharma. Dana lo khatsit again. Susandina, chiran chaba sune lo khatsit. Mare, chö lo khatsit chaba sudu. He's 37 now. He became a monk at 9. He's 37 right now. He became a monk at 9, and he's held his monk vows purely since he was 9 years old. Is that incredible or not? Okay? Purely. Me and Malam know him very well. Malam was a monk too, but Malam decided to do the tantric way. Malam really did the Dakini dance with the Dakini. No, Malam good. He's good man. His heart very good. Your monk or not, never mind, but his heart very good. He is monk since he was 9 years old. Now he's 37. How many years is he a monk now? 28 years. Imagine you guys monk 28 years. Everyday practice, meditate, study, give teachings, receive teachings for 28 years. What do you guys chase after for 28 years? I'm not putting you down. Food, money, dakinis, relationship, fun, bubbly. That's what you all chase after. You're not bad. But this man chases after the Dharma. And he's here all the way from India to teach all of you. I'm happy for all of you. That's my point. I rejoice. I don't say this to put you down. I tell you this so you know the quality of a Sangha. So take care of Genla. He's my good friend. And make sure he's comfortable. Make sure you make offerings to him. Food. Make sure he has drinks. Make sure his cup and everything's clean. And then when he goes back, you make a little ang pao. Whatever you want. Why? Not for teaching you. We don't pay for teaching. Show respect to monk. Say, please return back, Genla. Okay? Any questions? I'm very happy all of you are doing this. Don't learn it just for this year. Like last time you guys learned how to do the shows, what's that? The last show you guys did, what girls?
Wonder Girls.
Oh God. Okay. When you guys did the Wonder Girls, really wonderful. Then that's it. This ritual, once you learn, do it again and again. Because this ritual, is it a dance or is it Dharma practice? Correct. Okay? Any more questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Hang.
In order to perform vows, do we need to take certain vows?
No. You don't need certain vows, but if you can be vegetarian for that week, it would be very good. Very nice. It's an offering to the Lama. May the Lama live long. I don't eat meat. Save the lives of animals. It would be very good. And of course, you don't come doing the dance drunk lah.
Do we perform this puja every year or only?
This I don't know. How can you ask the Lama, I want Denshu, I want Denshu. This I don't know. This one is offering from student. So how can you tell Joe, hey Joe, you have to make offering. Ask Rimji, do you make offering to Rimji every year? I don't know.
Request to do every year.
You can do a Denshu twice, 3, 4, 10, 20 times a year, because the more you do, more merit you collect for the Lama. You can do as many as you like. No difference. But you don't ask the Lama, do I do every year for you? But now I'm giving you just information. You can do as many times as you want for the Lama. It's your offering. It's how much you want your Lama to live. Not only the Denshu like this, you can also have the monastery do long life prayers for your Lama. Because if your Lama lives, the Dharma grows. If the Dharma grows, you all grow. It benefits you. Okay? Especially when the Lama is sick, when the Lama is not well, a Denshu can be done. Very important. When it's very serious. Very, very serious. Sometimes even when the Lama is very seriously ready to go, bye-bye, you can invite a picture and do the Denshu to the Lama's picture and visualize the Lama. It will make a difference. Okay? And, no, actually, it's a good question. I just want to play with him. How often you do is up to the students. But well done. And Denshu, a lot of offerings. a lot of water bowls, a lot of candles, a lot of incense. A lot of offering doesn't mean a lot of money, because some of us don't have money. The offering is not so much money, it is offerings to generate merits to the 3 jewels to dedicate towards your Lama's long life. Does everybody understand? You can do Danshuk every day. If you do White Tara's practice and make offerings to White Tara, or Lama Tsongkhapa's long life form, Jetsenzima, you can generate merits for your Lama. And if your Lama lives long, whatever you're dedicating to your Lama, you also get the benefit. Same thing. Karma is pervasive. You know, I say, oh, may Joe have long life and health and happiness, and I pray to Tsongkhapa for Joe every single day. He's my brother. I pray to him every single day. He gets long life. By me doing that, I also get long life without thinking, because the merit is pervasive. It means it covers everybody. You guys understand? All right? Any questions? Good. I'm very happy. Like I said, I wanted to come and just give you a little bit information, give you a little Dharma talk. I'm sorry it's late. And I wanted you to have more meaning in what you're all doing, because I think you all want to learn. Okay? I'll do a dedication for what we shared, and then you guys can do what you like. Nice to see all of you. Remember, go all the way with your Dharma. Go all the way with your Dharma. No holds barred. Because in the end, that's the only thing that's going to really, really matter. Okay? 当初今年上位给王的长南州啊，共产党帮党，结把节省多上抓吧，但没幸福的上些说，将精神就的不接，忙前帮的几个几，结把那帮没帮阳，国内派我说，当你通话的不接，忙前帮的几个，结把那帮没帮阳，国内派我说，给王的牛头党拉马上街这个，这几个马龙帮的沙拉锅把说，去的结把中国帮，去的南巴派我吧，给的结嘛先王党，直接马龙他们说，当当精神就是当这位做。拉点的，结果老三抓把一，但把108就几港地的为考虑为新港地，本地没到马路就为，前年人往电信家做一，下飞机就报的天就几。Good. I want to take a picture with my Dakinis and teacher and everybody, please.